Keep it short, so avoid this C more, no knock on Suburban, but avoid this C more, right? People's attention spans are pretty short. I keep the message shorter if possible. Number 8, you have a good blend of content. I think that's pretty obvious, and most hospitals do. Number 9, this is more something for you to think about rather than just a best practice, but we get asked this a lot, right? Our hospital system, we have our main hospital page, Beaumont Hospital, in my hometown of Detroit, big shout out. But we also have departments that would like their own Facebook pages. Or we have a children's hospital associated with our hospital system that would like its own page, Or, so how do we determine, what's the right thing to do? Should our hospital just have one page and that's it? Or should we allow, the urology department to have their own Facebook page? And I would say to you, and maybe this is a cop-out, there is no right answer. There is a right test, however. And I would say to you, to say back to the organization that's asking you for a Facebook page, do you have what it takes to support it? Yes, setting up a Facebook page is free, technically, right? It's free to just create one, right? But it's a big time investment, not only in posting and monitoring, but actually creating content, as you've seen today, is a big investment, right? That is not free. So say back to the organization, say back to the urology department, do you have what it takes to maintain and update this? Do you have enough interesting content to maintain this, right? If you don't, we're happy to promote your organization through the main page for now. And when you reach that point where you feel like you have what it takes to support it, by all means, let's do it, Children's hospitals make complete sense. They use it a lot for fundraising, events, right? They often have plenty of content to support it. And they often have the audience base too, right? Everyone loves supporting a children's hospital. And so finally, number 10, I make the recommendation for creating a social media playbook. And this is a bit of a plug for EMG. I hope you'll allow it. But this is something we've created for a couple of our clients. And what is a social media playbook? It's for someone going into social media for the first time. It's for organizations that have been doing it for years, right? It's kind of an overall playbook for how, and it's not just Facebook, right? It's overall, right? So, it could be made up of a couple things, overall context, right? What are we doing with social media? What does it matter to our organization? What are our goals? In the context of hospital systems as a whole, right? Set the context. Examine organizational structure, right? You might have one social media manager, but my guarantee is they're not the only ones involved, right? They're getting content and photos and videos and input from all over your organization, right? Have a structure in place so they're not overwhelmed, and it's very clear, when the people in PR have something they like to share through Facebook, it's very clear the channels they go through. So set up a structure, have a standard process in place. So for a client, we created a content request report so that when there's a fundraiser going on and you need someone to write it up, have a standard form that you give to someone that has everything that's expected of them in terms of, the media you need, who needs to be, you need to speak to, all that stuff. Come up with these forms that facilitate your organization's social media endeavors and branded content. What's the content my organization is going to come up with over the next year? Have some structure in place that's part of this playbook. So, our hospital is going to do at EMG, we call it a serialized approach to content. What is the series we're going to do every month? Think of it like a news broadcast. Every morning they have the spotlight on traffic, right? So I say to the organization, what's your series, right? What's your branded thing? It's going to be every month we're going to do an employee spotlight. Every month we're going to do an inspirational quote. Every week, right? Use the playbook to set in advance what that series is going to be. Because as everyone knows here, it is tough coming up with that 36% of original content. It's a real effort. So the more structure you have in place ahead of time, when we say we know we're going to do this every Monday, it makes it easier on your organization, and it makes it easier for these larger organizations to be a part of it. So we can't recommend enough. Come up with a playbook. And so I just want to go over at a high level, and we'll get into Q&A soon, just some quick takeaways, dig deep into your organization. I kind of just touched on this to produce original content. Look at all the different types of posts we saw, from videos to photos to events to health tips, right? There's so many amazing places within your hospital to come up with content for sharing on Facebook. So dig deep. A community often just wants to say thank you or connect with others and cultivate that, right? That benefits your hospital to have people saying thank you on your Facebook page. Take advantage of the additional Facebook page functionality. We talked about tabs, right? How could I use this for custom applications? And finally, as I said, invest time into creating a social media playbook. Whether you go for, to an agency for it or something you create internally. I really feel like it's something that every hospital system should be doing. With that, if you don't mind, I just wanted to give a quick plug, and then we'll get into Q&A. And I have a lot of great questions. Keep them coming. So in January, kind of a continuation of the research we've shown you today, we're actually going to be doing a joint webinar with Google called Healthcare and Online Video, How to Use YouTube to Engage Health Consumers. And kind of going to be a three-part webinar. We're going to talk about general statistics, so the type of health content, social life, or health info online, some overall video consumption statistics, some video ad spending projections, how to do that. We're going to look at a specific research, just like the one you've just seen for Facebook, only with YouTube. So how are hospitals and health systems utilizing YouTube to communicate with their communities? And then finally, best practices for video content creation and video advertising. So the types of video content that is engaging to health consumers, options for success on YouTube, how to customize channels. And I also want to mention at the end, we'll be giving out a free consultation for one audience member's YouTube page. So we'll send an announcement out. If you're part of this webinar, you'll definitely be getting an email from us, and that will be at the probably tail end of January 2011. Oh yes, I also want to mention, you heard Zach give the introduction. If you have any questions, project ideas, would like to reach out to EMG, just contact Zach. I have his information here, both his phone number, his email address. And like I said, I'll give you my information as well, but it's always helpful to go through client services, but feel free to reach out to me. And with that, I would love to get into a couple questions. We have about 10 minutes here. So the first question, and give me one moment just to look through a couple. There's a couple questions on, okay, this one someone asked, you talked about some best practices. Can you mention any practices to avoid? It's a great question. Well, I'll put it in a different context for you. So we were very encouraged, obviously, to see such a low percentage of posts that were complaints, right? 2% of 1,500. That's pretty low. But it also came to mind that this number is skewed because it's likely you have hospitals that are deleting negative posts, right? They see something negative come up and they delete it. So it's possible that number was artificially low. What does that have to do with practices to avoid? We personally feel this is the wrong approach, right? When you engage in social media, you're putting a public channel out there, you just have to take the bad with the good. And more often than not, it's going to be good. I think a complaint or a negative remark is an opportunity to shine, right? It's not about the remark itself, it's how do you react, right? If someone says, there's too much congestion in the hallway, you can say back, you know what? That's a great complaint. We've heard it from a couple of people, and here's what we're doing to rectify it, right? If you just delete that post, probably people were exposed to it, right? That person obviously wanted to respond, and if you just delete it, you have no opportunity to shine. You have no opportunity to show, you know what? Here's what our organization is doing to make the situation better. So I say, let them stand. And I would also remind you that if someone really has a beef with your hospital, right, they have a complaint, and you delete it, if they're really upset, they're going to keep complaining, right? And it's just going to become a hassle for you and your organization. So I say leave it. That's probably the biggest one in terms of practices to avoid. Mentioned, so here's a great question. Did you record anything around the effectiveness of all this original content hospitals are creating? So great question, right?